Welcome back, guys, to another video. I wanted to add on to the video that I did yesterday about Coach Prime because I read some of the comments, and some of the comments are actually giving me more commentary because I missed out on a couple of things, and I kind of had to go because I was on I had another obligation, so I kind of had to cut that video short. And there was so much more to unpack from that game against Nebraska, the way Colorado Buffaloes looked. I know Coach Prime is doing his best, but doing your best with the logical, admissions, when you are admitting illogical practices, your best doesn't really matter. All right, just like if a person is trying their best to lose weight, but they're not actually exercising and eating healthy, then your best efforts doesn't mean a damn thing because your practice is illogical. Your practice is not laid on the track of common sense, where it's going to lend its hand for you to actually see gains in accrue an outcome. So when I'm looking at Colorado football, right, I was reading the comments on my video, and it's Benji always, man. I love the guy's takes because he's just so cutthroat truthful. But you can tell that when he talks and when he writes, he doesn't say anything that's, I don't read opinion. I don't read emotion. A lot of people who started to follow Prime were doing it off of emotion. And this is how you know that the critical thinking skills of majority of human beings is lost. That's why we can be fooled with elections. That's why we can be fooled to believe that voting counts. That's why we can be fooled to think that certain things that are, let me be careful with my words because I don't want to get accidentally censored or banned. But let's just say this. Let me just generalize this. This is why many people follow the status quo, and we have more followers than we have leaders. We have more followers than we have critical thinkers. We have more sheep than we have wise foxes. Okay, if I can insert that animal analogy and imagery there for you to understand. So when I read It's Benji's comments, it was eye-opening. Now, we know in the beginning when Coach Prime talks, and I said this earlier in the offseason and after the season was over with, after the first season with Colorado and Prime, the experience with that team, I said they cannot be one-dimensional next year, which is this year. I said they have to do something different. And here we go. We're 2 games in. They're 1-1. They beat North Dakota State barely, and they got blown out by Nebraska. And what we've seen thus far is the same thing that they did last year. Now, I know many of you guys who are Coach Prime apologists would try to put this on anybody else but Coach Prime. You guys do understand that Coach Prime is the head coach of the football team. You guys do understand that a head football coach is analogous to a CEO of a company. You have to understand that just because Coach Prime is not responsible for the play calling, he still can dictate what type of plays are being ran. Meaning that Pat Schumer, I believe that's the offensive coordinator, I believe that Pat Schumer, though he's the offensive coordinator, it doesn't mean that Pat Schumer's influence is what's going to drive the overall look for the offense of Colorado. So in other words, if Pat Schumer, let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's say Pat Schumer wanted to be more balanced, and let's say he wanted to be a little bit more run heavy and pass off the run, he can't do what he wants because Coach Prime is a CEO. Whatever the executive officer says, okay, whatever the chief executive officer says, whatever the CEO says goes. It doesn't mean that Prime has to be an expert of offense. It just means that Coach Prime's influence is evidently seen by the type of plays that they run. So I'm saying this because there's a misalignment here. So when I read It's Benji's comments, and I can't read his comments right now, when I get time, when I get settled, when I get time and I get a chance, I'm going to read his comments word for word so you guys can see what I mean, so you can see the difference between objective critical thinking skills and thinking that's laden and laced with a high degree of emotion. Because when you're imbalanced in that metric, you can't think logically. It's okay to think emotionally, but it's also not okay to be overwhelmingly emotional when you are critiquing anybody that you like or that you look up to. I know a lot of times Coach Prime uses race as a way to bait people in. Okay, he talks a good game. He speaks the language of African Americans. His cadence, his style. He has a little flash underneath his false sense of humility, because he does try to show some humility, but he does it in a very, very staged way, right? I call that false piosity or false humility. It's the guy who knows he's flashy, but tries to say and do certain things to put himself in a state of being humble. Humble people don't have to act humble. Humble people just do. It's not an act, it's just what you are. And to me, in my personal opinion, I believe that Coach Prime at times puts on the act of humility, where in actuality, he's a very arrogant, overconfident guy. And to each his own. If he wants to be that way, you can be that way. But there does come results and consequences, natural consequences, logical consequences that happens when you have that type of mentality. When you're so full of your ego, when you're so full in your ego, there are consequences to that. But a lot of people who call themselves Christians, they operate that way. They play the humility game because they call themselves Christians. They think just by the title alone and by the label of Christianity, that puts them in a state of being humble. But when you look at their actions, you look at their speech, they always use Christianity as their foundation to make non-critical thinkers see them as being humble. Because a lot of people who are believers, they're just waiting to see popular people say they believe, so they can feel like they're part of the in crowd. So it's like the reject. And I'm going to get to my point in a second, but I want to make this point real quick before I get to what I want to say and get to what Benji said. When you have rejects in high school, when you have rejects in society, oftentimes they say misery loves company, because when you're miserable, you want other people to kind of share your misery, so you feel like you're not alone in your misery. There's nothing more worse than having somebody in a dark place and you feel all alone. It makes the darkness even thicker. So when you have people who are Christians, they love to see celebrities say that they're Christians because they feel like, oh, I'm part of the in crowd. So what you have is a paradox and a conundrum of philosophical musings, philosophical thought. In one sense, Christians are supposed to be away from the world. Christians are supposed to be in the world, but not of the world, right? That's what they teach. They say you can be in the world, but you can't be a part of it. So you're in the world, but you're not a product of the world. But in a sense, Christians they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to selectively, conveniently play the Christian card to draw in non-critical thinkers who are driven by emotion to say, oh my God, I thought I was the only believer. We have a popular coach like Coach Prime. Oh yes, he's popular, he has style, and he says he's a Christian, he believes in God, and he says he doesn't curse. Look, I don't give a damn whether you curse or not. That's what I mean by the false piosity and the false humility. And people bite that. Cursing, the words you say is not indicative of what kind of man you are. Now, I would say this. You have to know when to turn it on and turn it off. There's a time when certain words are needed. There's a time where anger justifies the use of profanity. Profanity is an outlet. It's therapeutic, because when you're mad and somebody pisses you off, you may want to tell them to shut the up, all right? You may want to do that. But when you're constantly, if your speech is 100% of the time you're constantly cursing without cause, without justification, that's when you can say, okay, you have a cursing problem, and maybe perhaps you need to get a control of that. I've made videos in the past, and I talked about how you cannot let things control you. And I said this before, and I'm going to get to my point here, but I want to make this, and this is just me channeling right now, because I didn't plan to talk about this, but, you know, this is natural, this is organic, so here we go. I've said this before, when people are deep into their alcohol, when people are deep into their pornography, all these vices that people have, I can name many more. I say this, I'm not the guy to point the finger at you, because I don't have those vices, but I'm not the guy to say, oh, look at you, you're an alcoholic and I'm not, and I'm better than you. Oh, look at you, you're addicted to porn. I don't even watch porn. I don't even want to look at that, but I'm better than you. It's not that. It's not about you looking down on somebody else's struggle and then making yourself look better based upon their struggle. That's not good. That's actually destructive. That's destructive to you. It may not be destructive to that person, but it's also destructive to you, because we're actually one. We're actually one state of consciousness. The best thing to do is to tell somebody, don't let anything control you. You say, what do you mean by that, literary pharaoh? I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. This is what I mean. Rather than telling somebody you need to stop doing this, tell the person, don't let it control you. That's a difference, because people want to be empowered. The worst place, or the worst state that a person can be in, is a state where they are not in control, where you feel like something has control of you. If you have control of that thing, you're more likely to decrease the frequency in which you engage in it. Then ultimately you start to realize, I don't even need it. It's a process. You can't stop what you're addicted to cold turkey. You cannot stop what's controlling you cold turkey. You have to respect the vice. You say, what do you mean by respect the vice? It means that it's very disrespectful for a person who's addicted to pornography, or addicted to alcoholism, or addicted to junk food, to tell them, stop. Like, wake up one day and just stop. That's disrespectful. It's disrespectful because you're not actually garnering a degree of reverence and fear and respect for those chemicals that are in those foods that are changing the neurological receptors of the brain, hacking the brain system, and causing you to want to eat those foods. Even though you have a will to not want to eat that, your emotion drives you to eat it, because most of us in America are emotional eaters. We don't eat, logically. We don't eat to be healthy. We eat for pleasure. Eating is almost analogous to having sex. People are eating, they're like, it's almost like you're having an orgasm while you're eating, okay? So you can't tell somebody to stop, because you're being very disrespectful to that vice. Everything that's in our ecosystem has life. It may not be able to speak, but everything that has an atom has a degree of life in it. So you need to, just like people talk about the devil, it'll be very disrespectful for a human being, because we all believe, the people who do believe, if you want to believe in that narrative, that there's a devil and there's a God, and people know that this devil is supposed to be very intelligent. It's a very intelligent being. He's almost as intelligent as the God that created him. So it'd be very disrespectful to tell somebody, very arrogant too, to say, hey man, don't worry about the devil. You can beat him. You're stronger than him mentally. That's disrespectful, because you know you're not stronger than him mentally, because he's a supernatural being in another dimension. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because there are many vices that we have. So it's not about, oh, I don't curse, I don't this. Just don't let anything control you. To go your life trying to count, it's almost like the Pharisees in the Bible. They went around, counting people's sins and being very, very dogmatic, and being very, very, self-righteous in that regard. Very dogmatic in those nonsensical principles, the principles that are insignificant in the grand scheme of the whole picture frame. They would worry about the minutia. Oh, you did this. You didn't wash your hand before you ate. Oh, you didn't bow down. Like, it's silly. Okay? So when Coach Prime gets on there and is talking about, well, I don't cuss. I was mad, but I was about to cuss. Like, we don't give a damn, Prime, whether you curse or not. Actually, it would probably help if you did curse. Maybe you can do better coaching by cursing and actually reforming your team into a team that actually runs plays that's aligned to the personnel that you have, because you don't have a good enough offensive line to drop back and pass, having 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball. All right, defenses in college football are starting to understand how to beat you, and you're being very predictable right now. But what they do best is blame the offensive line. Even Shador, didn't he blame? I didn't watch the press conference, but one of the comments said he ended up blaming one of the receivers for why that interception was thrown. Like father, like son. But anyway, I was saying all that to say this. So when Coach Prime talks about that, it draws people in. So when he talks about his Christian faith and how he's a believer, people, rejects, and I call them rejects because Christians are always trying to go out there and convert. We're trying to spread the gospel. We want to make you a believer and follow Jesus Christ. And they feel like the whole world is in a troubled state because everybody in the world doesn't believe in Jesus Christ. They believe somehow, some way that if everybody just believed in this one religion, that the world would be better. Kumbaya, that it just fixes itself. And once everybody gives themselves to Jesus Christ, then Jesus Christ would fix the world. Like, the nonsensical ways that they reason is just beyond me. And if anyone here is a Christian and that's offended, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry for speaking my truth. Everyone has their own particular truth. But I'm telling you why people don't think critically, because they stay they're in a religion that doesn't operate on the realm of logic. So therefore, the followers are illogical. And so because they are illogical and not balanced emotionally or logically, their critical thinking skills is null and void. It doesn't exist. So what they do, like sycophants, they just follow. Emotional sycophants, they just follow their emotions. So Coach Prime being cool, and he talks a cool game, and he hypes people up, they follow. They can't sit back, all right, and wait till the smoke settles and see the product for what it is. Coach Prime is not a good football coach, guys. He's a good motivational speaker. He's a good, he's probably a great recruit, but in terms of X's and O's, he's not a good coach with his son. You will know how good of a coach Coach Prime is once his son graduates, assuming he's still at Colorado, assuming he's still coaching, assuming he still wants to coach, assuming he has a passion for coaching. Because him coaching his son is his weakness, is his kryptonite. Because he will not put the ball in other people's hands. He wants the ball in his son's hands. All right? Look at the first game against North Dakota State. There was the fact that Shedeur confident enough. Remember when the game was out of reach? I think it was a third down or a fourth down. In other words, against North Dakota State, I think Colorado had a chance to run the ball and kill clock and not give the ball back to North Dakota State with time where they can actually, throw up a Hail Mary and come back and win the game or even tie the game. I forgot what the score was at that time. And then Shedeur felt confident enough to change the play, and then feels like he can sneak a pass over the defense to pad his stats. And some of you guys are going to give me pushback on that. Oh, well, he's not padding his stats. He thought that was not the right play. Even Colorado pundits who are very, very pro Colorado and pro Prime were scratching their head at that damn play. So don't give me that nonsense about that was the right play. That was the wrong play. You see, a lot of the times what people say and what they do contradicts itself. So as a critical thinker, I'm going to go off what I see you do, because what I see you do shows me your true intentions. Yeah, you're not a team guy, Shedeur. You're about your stats. Because if you were about winning, if Brady is supposed to be your mentor, allegedly, I don't see how Brady in that situation would run the ball and kill the clock. Now, I know they've given Shedeur a sort of a degree of autonomy at the line to kind of change plays to at his own discretion. If he feels that he sees something and he wants to change into it, then he can, because obviously he's doing it. Because the press conference after that first game, the press conference kind of was weird, because Coach Prime was given a justification as to why that was done, why Shedeur did what he did. He's justifying what Shedeur did. But when they spoke to Shedeur took the blame for it. He said, "No, I should not have done that. I was getting a little bit greedy. I saw something, but I should have did the best thing. I'm not going to make the same mistake again." I'm paraphrasing. He said something to that effect. So that lets me know there that dad is always going to back up the son no matter what the son does. He's not going to hold the son accountable. But it seems like the son is more of the adult in the room, and he's more willing to hold himself accountable for the mistakes that he makes. When has Coach Prime ever admitted to any mistakes? All he does is blame. This is what Coach Prime needs to say. And I'm going to get to It's Benji's comment in a minute. I just got to get this off my chest. You know what? We're being a little bit too one-dimensional. I admit, guys, as a coach, I do want to see my son succeed. But it seems that defenses are starting to understand our tendencies, and they're starting to understand the proclivities of our offense. They're starting to see that we are more prone to run certain plays. Defensive lines are pinning their earbacks without having any thought of lane gap discipline. They're heading straight for the quarterback because we're being too predictable. We need to be more balanced. We need to rely heavily on our run, do more exotic run plays, keep the defense off balance, and we need to do better. And it's my fault. I really want to see my son showcase his skills and talents, but it seems that right now we don't have the offensive line to hold up defenses who actually know what we're going to do most of the time, because I do want to pass the ball most of the time, but I can't do that because after my first season of coaching in Colorado, I see it's not working, and after the first 2 games of this season, my second season, I see that it's not working. I do need to make a change. Put this on me. It's not on Pat Schumer. It's not on the offensive line. It's me not coaching my team based upon the personnel that I have. So it's my fault. Put this on me. Our next game against Colorado State, expect us to be a little bit more balanced. Expect us to be more of a competent football team. I'm not guaranteeing a win. I'm not hyping up anything. I'm not saying that we're going to blow out anybody or dominate, but you guys will see a better balanced team and a more competent team when we come out against Colorado State. Thank you, guys. That's the mature thing to say as a coach. But Coach Prime can't do that because you guys think he's humble. So every time he talks on the microphone, you guys always put him in the role of a victim, and you guys put him in the role of a victim who's being antagonized by the media, and people are being overcritical of it. No, people aren't being overcritical of Coach Prime. People are just being critical. There's nothing to overcritique. You just critique. He makes it very easy. Coach Prime, the way he operates his football team makes it very easy to critique him. There's no such thing as overcritique with Coach Prime. All right? So now, let me get back to the point of my video to talk about what it's Benji said. And I don't have his comment on my screen, so I can't read it. I did not know this because I was so pissed off when they lost against Nebraska. I was like, what the hell is going on? Remember in the beginning when Coach Prime said this, and this is before the season started. He always said this, and I wanted to believe it because I thought to myself, well, common sense, which I'm seeing is not too common nowadays. Common sense says, okay, your first season you weren't balanced. Your first season you said you guys couldn't run the ball. The first season you saw how being pass heavy did not work for your football team. Then Coach Prime, he understands what people are saying, so he speaks to the frequency of the crowd. He speaks to the frequency of the audience to lull you in. But if you're a critical thinker, you wait. See, people who move in haste, people who move quickly off of messages are the ones that are often fooled and often manipulated. You oftentimes have to wait till the dust settles, and then everything becomes clear. Immediately, when Coach Prime started to speak to the frequency of the audience, he started to mention things like, oh yeah, we got a good offensive line, we're gonna run the ball more, we gotta run the ball more, run the ball more, run the ball more, run the ball more. I said, okay, great, we're gonna run the ball more. First game against North Dakota State, I saw a little bit more runs, but they still weren't balanced. Fine, it's North Dakota State's first game of the season. We get it. Second game against Nebraska, which is the point that I'm going to make right now. I did not know this. It's Benji said it on the comment. I didn't even bother looking at the box scores, at the stats, because I was so pissed off that they lost the way they lost. See, I don't get mad if Colorado loses. It's how you lose. You know, all losses are the same in terms of the win-loss column. Okay. The numbers underneath the L column are the same. But how you process the loss and how you played is processed differently. Some losses that you have in the L column can actually be good for you because they can teach you how to, repair the mistakes that you made that caused you to lose in the first place. So as I was reading it's Benji's comment, I did not know this, that number 7, I forgot the running back's name. I think it's Dalen Howard or something like that. I did not know that he had, I forgot how many attempts, but I think he had 7 attempts for 6. No, I'll have to look at his comment. I don't know how many attempts he had, but anyway, the running back for Colorado, whatever attempts he had, he averaged 6.4 yards a carry. Now, those who know football, is that good or is that bad? Those who know football, remove your emotions out of it. Remove your obsession of Coach Prime out of it. Okay. Remove your obsession with Shador. Just look at the numbers. Numbers are not emotional. They're just numbers. Numbers are just numbers. If a running back, I don't know how many carries he had, if a running back is averaging 6.4 yards a carry, is that good or is that bad? I'll wait. Yes or no? Is it good or is it bad? It's a one answer question. I don't want you to give me but, because that's what the prime apologists do. It's a yeah, but. No. Is it good or is it bad? Now, we know it's good. And it's obviously good. Anything close to 5 yards a carry, anything over 5 yards a carry is amazing. Anything close to 7 yards a carry is unheard of. So don't give me this idea that they cannot run the freaking ball. They can run the damn ball. Coach Prime chooses not to run the ball. I said this last year. I was called a hater. You guys are seeing it now. You can't blame Pat Schumer because it's not Pat Schumer's team. He's not the CEO. What Coach Prime wants is what goes. Again, what Coach Prime wants is what goes. As you can see in the first game, he justified his son changing the running play to a pass play when the time was on their side and time was not on the side of North Dakota State. Therefore, justifying his son throwing the ball, stopping the clock, giving the ball back to North Dakota State with an opportunity to actually win the game or maybe tie the game. Oh no, win the game. I forgot what the end of the score was. Was it like 16-23 or something like that? So I think North Dakota State would have won the game if they scored a touchdown. Shador said, nah, that's on me. Dad says, no, he did the right thing. That's what we call daddy ball, folks. It's hard to hold your own child accountable. I'm not saying he's a bad father. I don't know about how he fathers. I'm talking about his coaching skills. So a lot of people like to jump to the personal thing and they extract, they take the conversation somewhere else and they make it about something else and not keeping it aligned to what the main point of this video is being conveyed. The main point being conveyed here is that Coach Prime's coaching job is what's hurting Colorado football. Colorado, they're not a bad team. Personnel-wise, they have better players than that team that went 1-11 a couple of years ago. Personnel-wise. Coaching-wise, they're worse. So it balances everything out. They're still a bad team. You have to have both to exceed the past bar that was set. 1-11 is a very low freaking bar. To win one game out of 12 games is a low bar to set. But that's the bar that Coach Prime came in with. So when I talked last year on my channel, the comeback is that, well, he did better than last year's team. He still was a better team than the 1-11 team. Yeah, the bar was low. It's like a person who takes a test and they get a 10 on the test, 10% on the test. And then I come in as a new teacher. I teach the same kids. I'm supposed to be a better teacher than the first teacher who had most of his students get 10 on the test. I come in as a new teacher. I'm supposed to be more improved. I have improved teaching instructional practices. My entire praxis on education is different than the past teacher. And then I give a test to my kids, to my students, and they get a 20. They get a 20. They get 20s. And then people come behind me and they start bragging, yeah, he did better than the old teacher. Yeah, by only 10%. Okay, great. When the bar is low, I mean, you have nowhere to go but up. So, yes, Coach Prime took over a 1-11 team. Yes, he won 4 games. Let's see how many games he wins this year. He's won 1. He barely beat a team he was supposed to dominate. He got blown out by a competent team. Any team that's competent is going to beat Colorado. It's not because Colorado doesn't have talent. It's a matter of mind, mental. Though, as physical as football is, There's a degree of there's a mental component of football that goes overlooked. It's marginalized because we see the physicality so much in front of us that we can't see that there's a mental aspect of football. There's a psychology behind the things that people are doing physically. If you have a coach that's coaching incompetently, then that means that a competent coach and a competent team will beat the team that has the better players but has an incompetent coach. You have to have a coach with common sense that doesn't coach off of emotion. See, Coach Prime coaches off of emotion. You say, how? Because look at the kind of plays they run. It's about his son. It's about Travis Hunter. It's about that connection. It's about his brand. It's about him flipping a 5-star recruit. It's always been about Coach Prime, guys. I hope you guys are getting it. It's not about Colorado. It's not about the football team. It's about Coach Prime. It's about Shador. It's about Shiloh. It's about Travis. Those 4 people. That's it. That's it. Everybody else is just collateral damage. And if you're a running back, you are committing career suicide if you go to Colorado. Listen, I'm going to read it's Benji's comments because he said so much. The guy, Coach Prime, gets in front of cameras. He tells people lies. We're going to run the ball more. We got to run the ball more. He even said it before the game. He said it before the Nebraska game when he was stepping off the bus. And I think his son, Shiloh was next to him. And they were interviewing Coach Prime. And he talking about they're going to get the quarterback. They're going to get at him, which they never did. Coach Prime is great at cashing, writing checks that his team can't cash. He needs to just humble himself. Even the example that I just gave about him taking accountability and being humble enough to say that I'm not coaching his team right, he'll never do that. He'll never do that because he's Coach Prime. He knows it all. It's hard to get at a person that thinks they know it all. So Coach Prime gets in front of cameras and says, we got to run the ball more and be more balanced. He says that to appease those people like me who think that he should do that. He understands that he's in the wrong. I remember when Coach Prime worked for NFL Network. He would comment on games. He would give his critique. He was very, very intelligent. Coach Prime is not dumb. He knows what when I say incompetence, his incompetence is not coming off of him, off of his own ability or inability to think. He's a great thinker. You don't get this far in life without thinking. He's athletically gifted. He's also intellectually gifted. It's just that he's coaching his son. That's why people call it daddy ball. Daddy ball. Daddy ball removes competence. Daddy ball taints logic. Daddy ball dilutes common sense, meaning that you'll have a degree of common sense, but it won't operate when it needs to operate at the most opportune time. It means that you'll justify your son throwing the ball on a play that they should run the ball to kill clock because it's your son. No one's going to talk about your son. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate. He's going to be a number one. He's going to be in the first round draft, in the NFL draft coming up. That's my son. I got to make sure he does well. That's what they call daddy ball. It's coaching for the betterment of one player at the expense of the entire damn team. And that's what's happening. That's why running backs don't get the ball at Colorado. That's why the ball is consistently in Shador's hands, and he consistently throws to Travis Hunter. Yeah, he throws to other receivers too, but he's fixated on Travis Hunter. It's crazy. It's disrespectful to the other defenses that are scheming their plays against Colorado. It's as if to say, oh, this is what we're going to do. You can't stop it. They will stop it because those defensive teams, those defensive coaches are watching tape, guys. They see that you guys are very predictable. So when I was reading It's Benji's comment, that line about the running back gaining 6.4 yards a carry, and yeah, though it was a small sample size, but don't give me that nonsense. I was just about to curse. Don't give me that nonsense about we couldn't run the ball. You couldn't throw the ball either, Coach Prime. So why the hell do you keep throwing the ball? You say you can't run, but you don't even have a large sample size to actually validate that. But let's give you that, Coach Prime. Let's say that you couldn't run the ball. Well, you sure as well couldn't pass the ball. Now, there was a stat that was given on First Take, right? They said that the times that Shador wasn't blitzed, he completed 13 of 15 passes to that effect, something like that, 13 of 15. Yeah, but those 13 passes he completed were like 3-4 yards a pass. They were most like bubble screens. He wasn't just launching the ball down the field. So those stats are misleading. When he dropped back to pass the ball to get a significant gain off of the pass, he was being rushed. He was being hurried. He was being pressured. He was being knocked down. He was being sacked. So yes, if he gets the ball and just throws it 1 yard or throws it laterally as a bubble screen, that's a completion. Yeah, I get it. And the runner and the receiver may gain 4 or 5 yards off of that. And yes, it goes to the stat of Shedeur, but the pass didn't even travel a yard. So look at the game again, guys. Yeah, when he was in blitz, he completed passes. So this is what First Take is trying to say, specifically Stephen A. Smith. The narrative that he's trying to paint here is the same narrative that Coach Prime is trying to make you guys see, you guys who can't think critically. He wants you guys to say that it's the offensive line's fault. That if the offensive line blocks better, if Shedeur is protected more, then he'll complete more of his passes. It's not about Shedeur being protected more. It's about Coach Prime's Colorado's football team being too damn predictable that you don't even have to have a great defensive line to get at Shedeur. Didn't North Dakota State kind of get at Shedeur? Remember, I think the first series they got to Shedeur. You don't have to have a great defensive line to get to Shedeur, folks. You don't. Any team can get to him. But it's not because the offensive line is bad. It's because they are predictable. I keep telling you that. You don't have to blitz. Blitzing is just overkill. You could just pin your ears back and get to him. Because he does tend to hold the ball too long. Shedeur does. He's looking for the big splash play. He's looking to bloviate his stats, to enlarge it, to put it on a grand scale. And that's what he's doing. It's the coaching, guys. Colorado has talent. You can't tell me that they do not have talent. They have the talent. Coach is ruining that team because he's focused only on a handful of players at the expense of the entire team. They play hard. Bentley, those guys play hard. They do. I watched them. They're not a bad team. 80% of this is coaching. 20% maybe the players. But I can live with that because players aren't going to be perfect all the time. But at some point, guys, as coaches, as the adults in the room, you watch film, you see what we see. You see what we see. Coach Prime, you see what we see. I watched you on NFL Network. I watched you on NFL Network critique games masterfully. Be objective for a second, Coach Prime. If Shedeur wasn't your son and you were not coaching Colorado, Coach Prime, I believe you'll be talking just like I'm talking. You'll say that team is too one-dimensional. They need to make an intentional effort to run the damn football. That they average 6.4 yards a carry with a specific running back. That they need to be more exotic with their running plays. And not be predictable when they do run, when they're just running it down the center with no creativity at all. You would say that, Coach Prime. I know you would. I've heard you break down teams that did exactly what your team's doing right now. You've told on yourself. So you're not convincing me, you're not fooling me when you're going to try to blame it on your offensive line. It's not your offensive line's fault. It's not your offensive line's fault. You're playing in a Power 5 conference. You're playing in Power 5 conference football. And the defenses in Power 5 conference football are a little bit better. The defensive lines are a little bit better. This is why they did not go to HBCU. They came to Division I. That means that the athletes are better. But remember, Coach Prime, you also have D1 athletes on your team too. You had these transfer portal guys that came to join to replace the bad offensive linemen that you had. And I'm curious. I'm going to follow Kent State. I think it's Kent State. No, San Diego State. San Diego State. The school that the offensive coordinator went to go be the head coach of. I want to see what their running game looks like. Because some of the offensive linemen that were in Colorado. Sorry about that, guys. Some of the offensive linemen that were there with Colorado the first year that Coach Brown was there, they left with, I think his name was Sean Lewis. He was the offensive coordinator. They left with him. They left. If they're so bad, let's see how the running game is there. I told you guys, Sean Lewis is a balanced, competent coach. He understands coaching to your personnel. He understood that they couldn't pass the ball as much with Shedeur because Shedeur is not a dual threat quarterback. Now, I'm going to stick to this story. Sean Lewis, the last year's offensive coordinator, and Coach Prime butted heads on philosophy. Okay? If you want to kill your career, follow Coach Prime, because what happens is that when people see the look and how horrible the offense looks for Colorado, the first person that people want to blame is the offensive coordinator. What's he doing? Why does he keep running the same plays? He needs to mix it up. See, Coach Prime gets to throw rocks and hide his hand, but people fail to realize that he's the CEO of the company. He's telling those coaches what to do. And because Sean Lewis is a yes man, he's his own alpha male. He's like, man, no, I'm not a yes man. Like, this doesn't make any damn sense. Take me off. I'll still be on the team as a co-offensive coordinator, but I'm out. I'm out. I can't function here. And I'm sure if Sean Lewis was sat down and he did an interview and if he was completely being candid, he would say that I couldn't coach underneath Prime, because he wouldn't allow me to run the offense as an offensive coordinator. He wanted the ball in his son's hand. And that's what we're seeing again. Tell me the difference between Pat Schumer and Sean Lewis. The only difference is one, Pat Schumer is a yes man. He's going to just do whatever Coach Prime wants. Sean Lewis is like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. See, Pat Schumer has had a longer career in coaching. Sean Lewis is trying to come up. So Sean Lewis cannot afford to have his credibility judged in terms of his football acumen on the offensive side of the ball. People don't want to look at him like, well, your offense was horrible. You had Colorado. You didn't run. Your offense at Colorado was horrible. He's like, no. I'm not going to have this on my record. I'm out of here. After the first year, he bailed. And I told you guys I was a red flag. But I didn't know what I was talking about. I was a hater. You guys kept telling me that many college teams have changes. Yes, they have changes, but not this drastic. Not after the first year of a rebuild that's riddled with hype. You would think at least 2-3 years those guys would stay together before they start going their separate ways. You had so many people jumping ship after the first year. So I commend Dylan Edwards for leaving, because if Dylan Edwards stayed in Colorado, his success would be nothing. He's scoring touchdowns for what is it? What team does he play for now? Is it No, not Kentucky. He plays for Kansas State. I think he plays for Kansas State, I believe. So yeah, that's my take, guys. It's Benji made a incredible comment. Coach Prime is lying to y'all. He doesn't want to be balanced. He's saying that to appease the people who know what they should be doing. So he speaks on camera, on the microphone, as if he aligns with people who are logical. But then when it comes game time, he reverts back to his addiction as a father who's removed all competence from his coaching practices. It's like the person who tells you, I'm not going to go back and do crack. I promise, I've given it up. Then when everybody believes in that person, they go back, they hide behind a wall, they hide behind somewhere, and they do the drug that they normally do. That's what Coach Prime is doing. He's lying to the public. He doesn't give a damn about being balanced. If he can have it his way, he'll throw the ball 50 times a game. And he doesn't mind them being down early because it'll justify him throwing the ball. Even if they're up, he's still throwing the ball. They've been up in games where they should kill clock. They're still throwing the damn ball. Didn't that happen to them last year? You're trying to tell me that all of a sudden Coach Prime doesn't know what football is about? It's about stat pad. Remember last year they were up on Stanford by a lot at halftime, and they come back second half throwing the ball? Are you serious? First down, second down, third down, throw the ball. You only take like 10 seconds off the clock. You give the ball right back to Stanford. That was a classic recipe. If I was a football coach and I wanted to show my team a classic way to blow a lead, I would show them that video of Colorado and Stanford. I would show them that football game. I would say, guys, this is the recipe. This is the blueprint of how to blow a big lead. Blow a team out in the first half, then come out in the second half throwing quick passes. You're up. The clock is your friend. Bleed it. Stanford needs all the time in the world to come back. They're down a lot. Look at what Nebraska did against you, Colorado. They were up big, 28-0 at half. I forgot. I think it was, 28-0 at half. And they didn't come out just chunking the ball around. They still were balanced. They still ran the ball. They threw the ball when they needed to. They didn't come out just guns blazing, just pass. And that's what incompetence leads to. They pass too much. I'm going to read It's Benji's comments a little bit later, but thank you guys for indulging me in this video. And I'm sorry that it went longer than I thought. I just had to get certain things off my chest. Coach Prime is lying to you guys. He doesn't want a balanced offense. He wants to showcase his son. He has an agenda. And coaches who have an agenda, they usually stifle the talent on their team. Colorado is much talented than what you're seeing on the football field. If you gave Colorado a competent football coach, they'll be a better team. They'll be a better team. Because as far as I know it right now, the way they're playing, they're going to lose against Colorado State. Mark my words. All right, thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment, tell me what you guys think. All right, bye. Peace.